back to another study. We'll just dive right in, take a deep dive into the brainwave ocean here. Um, and this is all at the beginning of the study. You got eyes open and just pure, unadulterated wake right here. Looks like they might be watching a show or on their phone or something with all the little eye twitches going on. They might be reading. They're not incredibly rhythmic, uh, but you can see the eye movements twitching like that. And it's also reacting in the F3 and F4 channels. Kind of makes it look like a reverse K complex in the F3, F4 channels. You got a positive and then a negative deflections. And looks like maybe we've got some stage one coming up finally. Alright. Oh, finally, some alpha. That is some clean looking alpha right there. Oh, and then it's gone. Okay. Oh, some clean looking alpha right there. And then it starts dropping off a little bit, maybe a little bit of sleep right there, a little bit of sleep right there. Not quite enough. You didn't mark it, so that's good. This one I would call stage one right here. Just you have the alpha pattern in the previous one. If you just take a look right here and right here, and then the one before that even, you have all this alpha pattern, and then right here it drops off to 1 a little bit, and then here drops off to 1, and then as we keep plugging away, this continues into the next epic, and it does not stop. So I think this is actually stage one. And this is also stage one. And then we have an arousal here that lasts throughout the entire epic. We'll back to wake. And then back to one. Just looking at the difference between this epic with the alpha going on here, and then this epic. So this is stage one, and this is stage one. Let me just double check one thing real quick here. Yeah, there we go. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. I don't think this is 2 quite yet. Keep it in 1. No K complexes, no spindles. Well, yeah. 1. Maybe you thought this was a K complex here, but it looks like it just goes up and down, doesn't go below baseline. So this will be 1, this will be 1, and then here this one goes below baseline. So, and you have a spindle over here. Call this 2, 2, 2. So 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3. Okay. And we're into a chunk of stage 3 here. Swimming in the deep abyss of stage 3. And lots of waves in stage 3. Delta waves. Delta waves are 0.5 seconds to 2 seconds, or zero point 0.5 hertz to 2 hertz, which is this. It's the same thing. It's reversible. So hertz is cycles per second. So let's say you have a 0.5 hertz wave, which looks like maybe there's one right here, 0.5 seconds. Right? You need 2 of those for it to be a 0.5 hertz wave, right? So 2.5 hertz waves equals 0.5 hertz, right? Or equals, equals 1 second. But that's 2 cycles per second, so that's 2 hertz, right? Or if you have a 0.5 hertz, if you have a 2 hertz wave, which is 2 seconds, no, okay, I've got it backwards. Uh, this would be a 2 hertz wave because it's 2 cycles per second. Uh, so a 0.5 second wave is 2 hertz, and a 2-second wave, let's say, maybe this big old one right here is 2 seconds. That is 0.5 hertz. That's a 0.5 hertz wave. So it, half of this takes up a second, which would make it 0.5 hertz because it's half a cycle per second. So a whole cycle would be 2 seconds, which is why they're reversible. Sorry, I kind of botched that in the explanation, but basically, uh, stage 3 waves, you want to remember 0.5 hertz to 2 hertz. That could be on your test. Back to 1, 2, 2, 1, 1. And there's a K complex here. I would call this one stage 2. Coming after this arousal back in this one. This arousal. And then this one has a little K complex there. 2, 2, 2. Yeah, this is one where I adjusted sleep onset slightly. This is all um, this is all an arousal right here. You only marked where it got really dark. You need to look at the actual frequency here, comparing it to this frequency, this stage 1 frequency, and you can kind of see it starts right around there, which would, I believe, change this. hypopnea, most likely, if we were to look. Yeah, so this is now happening during wake, which means it's nothing. One. Little, I think that's probably a K complex. I think this is a little tiny K complex right here, up and then down. But definitely this one I would call a K complex. Not this one, but this one is K complex, K complex, K complex. These might be little arousals here. Could be. I think this one's an arousal. I don't know what's stopping me from. This looks like a K complex in here. But I think this is an arousal. One, and then this is an arousal two. And this would stay in two because of the K complex here. K complex there. Another arousal here. And that would drop this to stage one. And then two, 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 two. Tricky. I think I would call that an arousal. And I'll change it to a stage one. And then an arousal here as well, which would make this wake. Wake. Oh, no, you had it right with REM, I think. I just wasn't quite there yet. Didn't have time to retro score. Good start of REM, by the way. Oop, there's a little bit of chin tone happening right here. I think this would be an arousal. And good arousal there. All right. 1, 1. Okay, and then REM. So these eye movements, I would retro score all the way back to that epic of wake that we had. So I'd see these and I go back. This chin tone right here, it has to be at least 1 second of chin tone, really, like a little blip. That doesn't really count for me. So if that's what you went back to, and I understand why you went back to only here, but I'd go back even further because that's just a tiny little blip right there. So I go back one more and then two more back to this arousal here. So I'd call this one REM and this one REM. Okay, I think this is an arousal here. It's got a little bit of chin tone. And I think this would bring it out to one. And then this arousal I think it starts there. The frequency difference between this side and this side. Just take a little look at that. You can actually see in between some of these brain waves here in stage one, and in here it's so tight, like you can't even peek your mouse into any one of these brain waves. Really, it's not very like uh, high amplitude. Like the waves aren't very big; they're really small, but they're still so tight. So there's no mixed frequency there. It's like just low amplitude. Excuse me. Okay, and then it kind of starts to drop off right around here. We have the same thing, really tight, really fuzzy looking, not like really fuzzy, but like can't really pick out one brainwave from the next. It's all pretty dark in here. And then it's kind of starts opening up a little bit in here, and definitely by here it's opened up, but I think looking at it as a whole, it's kind of drops off right around here into stage one, which you have. And then this is an arousal here. I think it coincides with the leg movement there. You can just barely see again. It's not very high amplitude, but it is high frequency brain waves. Almost there, not quite. Okay, let me go back one, okay. One, okay, and then two, 2, 2, 2. Yeah, you seem to pretty much nailed this study so far. I'm not really changing anything. Not, I don't have too much to say about it really. Um, we'll see once we get to some of the respiratory here. Okay, so this is interesting. You have a big old section of wake here, but you didn't actually mark an arousal. So I'm going to mark that arousal and we'll keep it in wake because that's what it is. But good for one. And this arousal, I think you have it marked a little short. I think it goes around there to there, which is 15.5 seconds. Good for wake. And then this one's a little longer too. Good for one. And then, yeah, it's not, this one kind of have 2 seconds right there, but not enough. But we'll keep it in one. That's a good arousal there. Keep it in one. And I would probably call this an arousal. We'll keep it in one. Then a spindle for two, 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 two. And I'm not sure, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 1, And then this is a bit of artifact here. I don't think this is enough. I think this is only 5 seconds for stage 3. And usually at delta waves, we don't really uh, mark random epochs of stage 3. Um, Usually we kind of clump score to keep everything looking somewhat legible in the trend for the doctors. So I'll call this 2, 2. Of course, I will not fault you if you call a single epoch of stage 3 when it is actually stage 3, which I have seen. So from you before. This one is also stage 2, not enough for stage 3. This one I think you could call 3. This one would be 2, 2, 2, and then 3, 2, and 2, 2, and then 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. There we go. I think this arousal starts there. Yeah, for wake, wake, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Back on Easy Street over here. This must have been a nice little study for you. Nice little break from some of the ones you've been getting. Let's check the start of this REM here. So our first eye movement is kind of in between that epoch. You've called this one REM. We'll go back to this one. Would you go back to K complex, spindle, or chin tone? And I don't see any of those things in this epoch, so I would call this one REM as well. And then the one before that, this is the last K complex that I see. So REM starts here. So yeah, you just missed it by one epoch here. Call REM there. And then some chin tones, some alpha. I think that's an arousal. And hopefully you can get to this sort of pace where you're looking at it around as fast as I'm looking at it so that you can kind of buzz right through these studies. This is a kind of a moderate pace. It's not super fast, but it's fast enough to run two to three studies with. Good continuation of REM. Okay, so I see a K complex and a spindle here, so I'm going to call this 2, and 2, and 2, and 2, 2, and then an arousal here. So just a little late leaving REM there. 2, and then 1, and then 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, so you have this marked as wake. I'm guessing this was an accident because it doesn't, this is all still sleep up until here when you went in. So I'm going to call this 2, and then wake, 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 wake. Oopsie, did I mark over? No? Okay. Okay, so this is tricky. This one, it might help if we increase our brain waves a little bit, just to kind of see a little bit better what's going on. If we're looking here, we've got a bunch of alpha, a little bit of an eye blink there. It looks like a K complex. It's not. And then it starts getting lower amplitude here, but not really mixed frequency. And so I'm going to keep this in wake here. And then again, same sort of deal. You have it marked wake good. And then starting to be a little bit more mixed frequency, but still high frequency, even though it's mixed frequency. You can kind of see some mixed brainwaves in here, but yeah, I think overall I would call this wake 2, or wake as well. And then in this epic, I think it starts becoming a little bit more sporadic right around here and in here as well. Got a little bit more sleep and then a little bit more sleep. I would call this one stage 1. 1, and then definitely 1 by this one here. 1, then a K complex. 1, 2. I'll decrease my brain waves again. 1, yep, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. Arousal here. If we increase just a little bit. Where did I have it? I had it 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then 1, and 2, and 2, 2, 2, 2, which you have. Arousal 1, 2. Oh, a little arousal in here as well. So I think I changed this to stage 1. And good arousal for wake there. And then 1 good, 2 good, 2. Yeah, this is some solid work here. Some solid work. Good job. Not a whole lot happening here. But you are marking this stage 2 correctly. And then 3. three, three. And I think this one is even three. These two is, this one might be two, but this one looks like it could be three. Oop, three. And then I think it drops to two here, right after this one. So it has three, 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 and then all of a sudden you just have one little K complex in here. The rest is all baseline. So I'm going to change this to two. You're only two epochs off. So dip back to three again, huh? So see how in stage three there's really no baseline, like you can't, like the waves are so big, you can't really tell where the baseline brain waves are. That's a good indicator that it's stage three, as well as, you know, your delta waves and all the rules that follow delta waves. They have to be 0.5 hertz to 2 hertz, and they have to last at least 20% of the epoch, or 6 seconds. 6 seconds is 20%. Let's check the start of your REM. You got eye movements. Go back, go back. Go back. You are perfect on the start of REM here, all the way back to this K complex. So that was good. I do think that this is an arousal here. You've got chin tone, you've got high frequency brain waves. Just compared these brain waves over to these brain waves. It's just high frequency. A little arousal here. Another little arousal here. And back to REM, which you started again perfectly on this one. A little arousal, dropping it to 1, 1, 1, arousal here. So let's see, if we go back, we had REM, now we have 1, and then this arousal I think starts there. This would be 1, and then this arousal goes out to here, which would probably make this wake actually. Wake, and if this is 10 seconds, which it is, you can mark this arousal here for 1, and then this arousal here as well for 1, 1, 1. This is probably REM, but you have no rapid eye movement, so we'll keep it in 1. You need those rapid eye movements to mark REM. And then 1, and 1, And I marked an arousal here as well. And 1 and 2. And I think you maybe missed, these are the tricky ones when they happen right on this little in between epochs. It's kind of hard to say, but I think that is an arousal. This would change this to 1, and then another arousal here, then another arousal here. This would be 1, and this would be 1, and this would be, come on, there we go, wake, and then 1, another arousal there, and another arousal here. This would be 1, arousal here, this would be 1, arousal here. And let me just increase this a bit because it might be easier to see a little bit how the frequency shifts. I don't know if it is or not, but just comparing these brainwaves with these brainwaves, just higher frequency. This would be 1, and then this arousal would start there, and this would be wake. This would be wake. And then this would be 1 with an arousal there at the end, which you marked in the next epoch. So this would be wake, good. 1 with an arousal here, and then 1, and then 1. Then there's another arousal here, and this one actually lasts throughout this whole little bit here. This would be wake, I think. Wake. And then you check the can flow here. So this would be 1 here. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And then a spindle for 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Decrease these back down so it's a little easier to see what's going on. 2, 2. So there's a chunk of arousals that you missed there. If we just go back to that section, it is kind of tricky to see some of these arousals because they're low amplitude, but you're really looking at that frequency, not necessarily the amplitude or how messy it looks, or it really tightens up in this area. And once you can get that frequency dialed in, you'll be able to see through the mess and see when there's an actual arousal versus just bigger brain waves or a bunch of chained K complexes together or something. And you'll also be able to get these sneaky arousals that just happen barely, this frequency versus this frequency. Just feast your eyes on the difference there and just kind of try to soak that in a little bit. This is low amplitude, mixed frequency. This is also low amplitude, but it's high frequency and it's alpha rhythm. So we'll carry on. Back to the easy 2 stuff. Okay, so in here, I think it shifts to 3 about here. 3, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2. Two, two, whoop. And here we have a little rapid eye movement there, just barely. Um, so I would call this one REM. If we retro score back, we've got a spindle here. So make this one REM. Got a K complex, so that would be 2. But we've got eye movements, no more K complex. So going forward after that K complex, I'd meet these eye movements and retro score all the way back to that K complex. Yep, all the way back here, which would mean REM goes from this eye movement back to the spindle and forward up until the K complex. And then there was eye movements up ahead, and we retro scored all the way back to this K complex. So I think this would be REM, and then REM again, again. Arousal, wake, REM. Went back into REM right away. Good retro scoring there. And good retro scoring there after that arousal. And we've got wake here, which you marked 2. I think that was probably a mistake. So they woke up and then lights on. Okay. So let's go back and do some brain waves. I mean, breathing. I think this was a pretty straightforward study. Didn't look like you marked too many hypopneas in this. I really wish my computer wasn't this slow during the 5-minute window. It could really save some time here. But that's about as fast as it goes. Okay, let's check this. Alright, good. Good hypopnea there. I even think that you can mark this hypopnea as well, related to that arousal. And those are good hypopneas. Solid, solid. And I don't see, so far, I don't see like a bunch of random hypopneas that we were seeing in some of your previous studies. I do think that is a hypopnea. The DSAT isn't too far away for that one to be a hypopnea. Let me just increase these. So that's definitely enough of a decrease starting there all the way to there to mark that hypopnea. Yeah, but there was a couple DSATs, a couple arousals. Here's a hypopnea here. So maybe now you're underscoring hypopneas. I think if they, well, okay, so this one is right on top of this DSAT. And for this to be, this DSAT is related to whatever is happening during this little arousal. So if there was a DSAT related to this event, it would be here. And there isn't a 4% desaturation right here. So there is here, but I think it's related to that, which is unscorable due to that massive arousal. So I don't think either one of these would be markable. The one that I put in, the one that you put in. And with your leg movements, you can actually mark these little blips here too. There is amplitude criteria for marking leg movements, but it's pretty small. So if it looks like it fits within the group, you can mark them. Okay, again, this is right on top of this, so it doesn't correlate. This DSAT would have to be over here for you to mark this hypopnea, for it to be in relation to the DSAT. I hope that makes sense. So this event here is related to this DSAT here, and this event here is related to this DSAT here. So this one doesn't have a DSAT, it doesn't have an arousal, and these two we can't mark because they're in after an arousal. So we would generally mark the third event, but it doesn't have a DSAT or an arousal. The arousal would have to be like right here for it to be markable, but it is unmarkable and unremarkable. Okay, I think that's an event just barely, probably. I think you're right. But you can mark these leg movements here. And then same sort of deal, you've got two little blips here to mark. And then a whole lot of nothing. Oop, and then the flow channels come out. That's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. That's a little long, 30 minutes. Now we've got 30 minutes with no flow, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and then you have, so almost an hour, 10 minutes shy of an hour to fix the flow. That's a bit long there, especially when they were in that little section of REM. It's good to have flow in REM. So just keep a closer eye on that. It's just a little bit too long. Like 15 minutes max, maybe, when you have flow that's out. You should really go in there and check out the flow if it's not reading. That's one of the more important ones, the flow, the SpO2. Um, yeah, I think you're right there. A little hypopnea, and uh, I bet you were itching to mark that one, but didn't. That's good. Good job. That's not quite 30% for 10 seconds. And this one I'd mark as a hypopnea here, and this one as well, and this one as well. Okay, so this one I'm not sure I'd mark anything there, even if there was no arousal. It's debatable actually, but there was an arousal, so I'm not going to mark anything there. And that arousal could have happened um, when we went through and restaged everything. You know. You've got some reduction in flow right there for that DSAT. I think I'd mark that hypopnea. Not really. So it's hard to say, because going back, I'm looking in the CAN flow for hypopneas, not necessarily the T flow. The T flow is a slight reduction, but not a whole lot. Um, but definitely you can see that reduction in the CAN flow, which is where you mark your hypopneas, the pressure transducer. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. All right, so we've probably added a few arousals here, I think, in this section since staging. But so here's how I would go through this section. We have this event here with an arousal. You can mark that. This event here, which does not actually have an arousal or a DSAT, so we don't mark that. Normal breathing here, or recovery breaths here, and then another arousal. Because of this arousal, we can't mark this because there was nothing before it. So I'm not marking this as an event. By the second one, by the third one, we mark an event. So we can mark that. It's related to that arousal there. So that's how I would go through this little section. And then these look central, actually. Central, central, just barely 10 seconds. Central. See how there's no effort in these. So uh, first we have this. Let's start at the beginning here. We've got a little hypopnea here, got a hypopnea here, then a central, then a central, then a central. So we do have flow and T flow here. We do have some flow in the T flow here. In this one, it's pretty much a flat line. It kind of has a little dip right here, but it's pretty much flat. And this one's definitely flat all the way through. And when your T flow is flat, it's going to be an apnea. You just have to determine if it's an obstructive apnea or a central apnea. So for that, you look into the belts, and here there's no effort in the belts either going along with these. So we'll call those central. And then moving on here, let me just increase this a little bit. Looks like you've got some reduction here, some, I would call this a hypopnea. And we have 2 breaths after this epic of wake, so that's good enough. Well into the epic of stage 1 to mark an apnea. And then one right afterwards here. We've got reduced breaths in the can flow. And then a recovery breath, and the recovery breath is a little easier to see in the T flow here. And then again here for that one. That one just has an arousal, no real desat. And then bunch of wake. Okay, nothing there. Good. Some more REM. Good, good. All right. All right, well done on this one. The only thing I would say is keep an eye out for alpha frequency, even if it's low amplitude. Just kind of train your eyes into seeing some more of that alpha, and then also looks like you missed some central apneas in the scoring. So keep an eye out for flat, completely flat T flow and no effort. That usually means there's going to be a central apnea. Whether it's going to be an apnea either way, but in that case it was central apnea with the belt having no effort. So, all right, I'll see you in the next one.